Welcome to the Sour Go-to-Market SaaS Takes podcast, where all your favorite SaaS leaders spill their controversial opinions while testing their taste buds. Get ready for sour candy with even sweeter insights.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Jason Hassenberg, and you're tuning into the Sour Go-to-Market SaaS Takes podcast. It's the show with sour takes and even sour candy. Today, I'm joined by Travis Tyler, Senior Social Media Manager at Motion. Travis, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I always mix up your first name and last name for some reason, but again, thank you so much for being on the show. You sent over your 5 sour takes. We're going to be diving into 5 different sour candies, starting with sour Skittles, all the way up to toxic nuclear waste, all different levels of fun, funny faces. Are you ready to go?
Jason, I was born for this, and I appreciate you bringing me on. And shout out to the other two Tylers who are better people than me, Tyler Washington over at Magical and Tyler Lessard, both of my good friends. So no worries about the name, man. Great names all around. Let's dive into these sour takes, buddy.
Let's go. So, first sour candy we're going to try is the sour Skittles. All right. Social media restricted by HR and executives is bad for business.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. I'm a social media manager, so I know I know the vibe you're going with. So I want to hear, why is this one of your sour takes?
Yeah, look, social media for corporate branding and business marketing is such a nuanced field. And social media has only been around for 30 years. It's still fairly new. I've been in positions where you have too many cooks in the kitchen, and created by committee can really sour the taste in your audience's mouth. Oh, okay, got through that one. And look, you either stand out from the crowd on social media or you get ignored. There is no middle ground. So if you hired someone to do social media for you, get the heck out of their way and trust that you hired the right person to run it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you first, being the hiring manager, let's say you're tasked to find that social media manager, how are you identifying a good fit for your company?
So in our world of GTM SaaS, I think a lot of our audience is going to be spending time predominantly in 2 platforms. So you don't necessarily need somebody who's an expert in the big 7. Really, it's LinkedIn and YouTube for the vast majority of B2B businesses, of where they need to have a presence and be consistently building community. So find somebody who has both a track record of doing it on their personal brand account as well as a corporate brand account. And you can ask for some metrics of growth from start to when that person is being interviewed with you. You can also take a look at their engagement and see, hey, is this somebody that is well connected in the community? Because a lot of the part of social networking that people don't realize is the social part. You need to find somebody who is going to be socializing, not just posting and ghosting, but they're doing a lot more than that.
What's the advice for the executives who are having trouble switching from like this years before social media and not really leveraging it to now it being a critical or vital aspect of their business?
You have different executives and CEOs and founders who kind of approach this differently. You have some who like being in the spotlight. They like posting a lot. They like, occasionally um, posting something that's maybe a little controversial, and
Yeah.
they thrive in that environment. You have others who feel like they need to do that and it doesn't come naturally to them. And I would tell them, don't force it. I would
Yeah.
say show up in the way that you want to be understood and known. For example, I have a CEO now who I've had multiple conversations with, and he's like, look, I'm just not that in your face type of founder. I
Mhm.
don't really want to post like that. And we're like, don't force it, man. You don't need to be like, I'd rather work for a CEO like that anyway.
Yeah.
Let the people on your team kind of be the megaphone for you, and let it happen naturally, is what I would say.
That's really, really like I love that advice. And I think that a lot of the people that are going to be tuning in here are going to be wondering, how do they leverage social media, right? And seeing your shows and how you've been able to move communities over the past, your entire career. It's just been something that I look up to and definitely aspire as someone who's been creating shows. So Travis, again, just really appreciate you jumping on. So let's dive
Yeah,
into sour take number 2.
let's do
This
it.
time we're going to be doing the sour popping candy by Warhead. So basically pop rocks.
All right, let's do it.
Let's flow. Fear, sour take number 2. Fear
Mhm.
of embarrassment is holding companies back from getting noticed.
Those are really good.
Oh, I love this one.
Those are really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
everyone loves this one. Melissa Gaglione loved it too.
Yeah, I've never had it before. Yeah, so fear of embarrassment is holding back companies from getting noticed. It's the people behind the best advertisements in the world all understand that there is a penultimate importance of a strong hook, something that stops the scroll.
Yep.
There is literally a metric in every paid ad platform called thumb stop ratio. Okay. So playing it safe out of a fear of embarrassment or looking silly will absolutely tank your ability to capture and hold attention. You want great marketing? You need to stop being scared.
Wow. How do you just push past those feelings of being embarrassed? I know maybe from a personal level and then from a company level, if you could break it down.
From a personal level, one of the things that I did that was most helpful was enroll in some local improv comedy courses. Somewhere along the way from childhood to adulthood, we just get, told to stop being silly.
Yeah.
We want to we don't want to stand out from the crowd. We want to like blend in and be just like our peers. And I think we lose some of our natural charisma.
Yeah.
And I would say from a personal standpoint, the number one thing I can recommend for anyone who's in a position where they want to be on camera, they want to be an evangelist for a company, they want to be an advisor that's, publicly speaking about a company, go take some improv courses. You don't have to wear a clown nose and sound like, you're not, it's about shedding this fear of looking dumb and instead learning how to roll with the punches when so much of what happens in social media you can't predict it. You can't expect it. And you just have to be able to say, as the famous Amy Poehler wrote, the title of her book, yes, and it's a really great trick and tip for anybody that's just wanting to improve and let go of that. From a corporate standpoint, it all starts with the founders. And unfortunately, this can be tricky when founders are young. This is their first startup
Yep.
and they're navigating waters where they've been handed a check from a VC firm
Yep.
and they're afraid of pissing off the wrong person. And I get that and I respect that. Um, but again, what I said earlier is like, if you want great marketing, you need to stop being so scared. And we can pull up multiple examples, and everybody wants to be, the breaking the status quo with their advertisements like Liquid Death
Yep.
or, with Duolingo, or everyone wants to be the next Gong with their, cute dog and their really great stats and everything. But I think if you can just not worry so much about trying to be this upmarket enterprise version that you think you're supposed to be. I
Yep.
heard somebody one day say, um, I feel like some CEOs start acting like they think a CEO is supposed to act instead of just being themselves.
Yeah.
It's like they watched somebody and they're like, oh, I'm going to emulate how that person runs their company. It's like, okay, well, I don't know if that's going to work. So it really starts with the culture from the top down of being able to say like, hey guys, we don't want to hurt anyone with our silliness. We don't want to, make anyone feel excluded or um, create a bunch of negativity in the world, but you can have fun.
Yeah.
And um, edutainment is a very, very profitable and successful form of explaining complex topics in a way that people want to learn more about.
I would love to hear your opinion on how to be able to break out of those barriers and maybe I don't know if you're incorporating like AI into any of your social media aspects, but a lot of people seem to be helping them write, helping them come up with ideas. And how are you using AI right now to help with that?
My relationship with AI, I started out as a Luddite. I really was like, I don't want to use it. I don't want to participate in it. I'm
Yeah.
creative enough without it. I don't need it. To now where I'm like, I enjoy using it as kind of a personal assistant to help me
Yes.
brainstorm ideas and get the ball rolling. Very rarely do I ever end up using anything that they gave back to me.
Yeah.
And instead, I use it to fuel more ideas. It's like having a conversation with somebody on my team when I can't get access to them, right? Or I don't want to
Yeah.
bother them. So that's the extent to that I'm using it. I do have a paid subscription to OpenAI's ChatGPT. I've played around with Jasper. I just released a video today where I showed two other kind of cool AI tools that you can use. One is called GigaBrain, GIGA Brain, and you can use that to find conversations that are happening inside of like Reddit communities and Amazon reviews of what people are saying about certain questions you might have.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there's really great uses of how to find and create content. But yeah, I think everybody can tell when somebody copies and pastes and uses that in a LinkedIn comment, and it just makes me want to go, "Bleh."
Yeah. I just saw your tongue. I think you have a blue tongue.
I do. Look at that. Off to my next sour take.
Let's go. Sour take number 3. Travis, so far it's been amazing. I think everyone listening is going to definitely take some nuggets away. So I'm happy to continue this momentum in the sour take number 3. We're going to be trying sour candies here, the Crybaby Tears. This is a level 30. So we're kicking it up a notch. The first 2 were level 6 and 11.
Okay.
Sour take number 3. Don't have hiring combos if you don't have a job description up.
Yep. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
These aren't too bad. These kind of remind me of like the candy the runts, but they're
Yes.
more sour. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I like them too. Yeah, these
So
3 are nice.
before I joined Motion about 90 days ago, I was on the hunt for my next role for close to 12 months, actually. I was fielding conversations pretty much all throughout 2023 to just try to find my next landing spot of where I could grow.
Yeah.
And it was alarming at how many conversations I had where there was no job description. And I was like, guys, you got to get your shit together.
Yeah.
And I think tech startups are just especially guilty of this, but please stop wasting your time and your candidate's time
Yeah.
if you don't have a job description written up. Don't even bother paying a recruiter if there's no formal description. Like, how the heck is a candidate supposed to know if they're a fit if you don't even know what you want for that role?
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to people and saying, like, hey, I'm trying to formulate this role, but I don't know enough about it. And I would like to field some questions your way because you seem to be an expert in this area. And I'm not saying that I want to poach you from wherever you are, but I need help in crafting a job description. Do you mind if we chat? Totally cool. Nobody did that. Like, it was just like, so I'm thinking about bringing on somebody who does like, video content. And I'm like, okay, it's a disaster. It's a disaster waiting to happen because then 6 months into the role, what's going to happen, Jason, is if a job posting, didn't have a description, what am I beholden to? Like, the job could change
Yep.
and you all of a sudden realize this isn't important to you. And that's ultimately what this comes down to, is like, you didn't take the time as a founder or as a founding member of the company to iron out the details of what you really want and why you need it and why you want it. And that's a problem.
That reminds me of the growth at all costs like era too, right? And we like to say it's over, but is it really over? I think there's a lot of companies out there that still haven't switched.
Mhm.
And I've had that experience too, where I was out of my job just, a, a little bit ago, and I was looking, and I experienced the same thing, but even worse was like I was put through multiple interview stages where
Yeah.
you're spending countless days, hours, where it's like, wow, I had that time off. I might as well have just been enjoying it, getting a mental health break, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I hate to see it. What how can we do better? I mean, for me, when I found this job, they kind of had me pencil out where I thought would make sense. And I get that. Not every company is going to have a perfect breakdown of your description. And so, how do you think both sides come together to create a better experience?
I think it largely falls onto the shoulders of the employer here.
Yep.
Um, like, why do you have a company if you don't know what you're looking for the people that are going to join it? Like, I wouldn't start a company if I didn't have job description. Like, no, don't do that. So I'm standing my ground on that sour take, and I'm going to die on the hill. But here's what you can do. If you're like, hey, I know there's a play to be had with content, but I don't know how to build out a content team. Okay, well, then your first marketing hire should be a head of content.
Yep.
But that head of content, it should be understood between the CEO and the founder and that head of content, like, hey, you're going to grow out a team of like 4.
Yep.
But I would love to know, like, what angle are we going here? Are we going to double down more on events? Are we going to double down more on video content, social content? Like, where are we going to like put our eggs in our metaphorical basket here? And then make sure that that head of content writes a job description and it's thorough and it's specific, and you have a couple people in mind, and you're saying like, hey, I interviewed a few people who, have been in this role for a while. Of, what should we have? I'll give you a perfect example. So my now boss, who's the head of content, James Mulvey over at Motion, he came to me with a job description that was social media producer. It was the first time I'd seen that in a role, and it just seemed like the perfect blend for me of where I believe social media is going, like we talked about earlier. What I forgot to mention was that I truly do think that social media managers are not just writing text posts and then reporting on the metrics to a team anymore. I think they need to be comfortable in front of the camera. They
Yep.
need to have a natural skill set of being engaging on camera, and they need to have an interest in creating short form content that's going to stand out on the scroll. So when James came, I was like, he gets it.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
get it. You get what needs to be done and what needs to be had in this role, how it's evolving. And that will show your candidates that you're the real deal and that you're serious.
I love it. And that creates a good mutual, relationship between the two, right? It's almost like, have you ever been hired and then the onboarding process is just crap and you're like, what
Yeah.
the hell am I doing here, right? And you
Yeah.
churn, and that it's like you just gotta meet right in the middle with and sometimes people don't want to have a job description because you don't want to cause that other leader to run away, right? They might have, and so they're scared, but being upfront and honest and just being kind, I think at the end of the day, it's gonna get you to a better place.
For sure.
All right, sour take number 4. This is the big boy right here. Barnett's Mega Sour Candy. Nope, this one here. Here we go. I'm excited to see how you feel after this one. This is where things start to get a little bit more amped up.
Okay. I've been feeling like, oh, I'm so confident. Yeah.
Yep.
And you got to suck on this one. You can't just like bite right into it, right?
I wouldn't bite on it right away. You
Okay.
could, I guess. I just don't want you to hurt. I don't know. I haven't done that. So
All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah.
take number 4. Job postings that don't have a salary range should be illegal.
Woo. Oh, man. Yeah. Look,
Ooh.
someone from HR might be able to explain this to me. Oh my God, this is sour. Give me a minute.
Yep.
Ooh, does it get sweeter at any point?
It does. It does. The
Oh my
out
God.
exterior.
Look how red I'm turning.
I've
Ah, hold on. I get some
tried
water.
this a couple times. So I think that's how the guy at Hot Ones does it. He's like, all right, I've done all these a million times.
Okay, starting to get sweet.
Yep.
Okay. Job postings that don't have a salary range should be illegal. Look, I'm not a labor law expert by any means, but transparent salary information hurts absolutely nobody except the cheap business that's not willing to pay market rate
Mm-hmm.
for their talent. So if you believe in free markets, you believe in capitalism, then you should believe in transparent salaries.
Yeah.
I believe that it should be somewhere in a labor law that companies must post a range for every job posting so that candidates have a better understanding of what they're signing up for and they don't waste time. I wonder how much less time you and I and all the other job seekers would have wasted and avoided wasting time if we had been like, oh, that's like $40,000 less than the range I'm looking for. Like, why are we even having this conversation? Why did I have to wait till round 4 of this interview process to find out that you guys are way underpaying for this role? Like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, it's funny you say that because it's like those same companies and listings also have they have a list of like 30 different requirements, right? And
Yeah.
20 years in SaaS, you need to this, and this, and generate this revenue, but they're not being upfront about their salary.
Mm-hmm. And then, like,
Is there a time example of when this happened to you and just the frustrations? You don't have to
oh yeah,
talk
yeah, I think
about a
it's
company
relatable for
at
a lot
all.
of people. Like I
Yeah.
said, in 2023, there were multiple conversations where I was like, I don't want to be the guy that's asking about money out of the gate, but like, let's just lay our cards out on the table here. Like, are we even on the same
Yeah.
wavelength?
Yeah.
And most of the time I was, but I just needed to know so that I could be
Yeah.
like, okay, I can take this seriously now. Um, and then, yeah, there's been a few times where I let recruiters know nicely, like, hey, just so you know, that you're looking for a head of content and you're paying them $80,000, that's way under market rate. And I don't know who told you to deal with the budget. Well, that's not it. Like,
Well,
sorry.
you have to like, and you don't know that until you've talked to other people in the industry too. And you
Oh,
picked
yeah.
up, right? Like when someone comes up to you at an event or something, they're like, hey man, you deserve to be getting paid this amount, right? That's kind of
Hmm.
how you know what you're worth.
Yeah.
I had that happen to me. Um, Dan from Apollo was like, hey man, this is what you deserve to getting paid. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Shout out to Dan. Yeah, he did the same thing to me. I've had that conversation with him. So,
He's
yeah,
a goat. He's the
for
community.
sure.
So here's one thing I'll bring up. The impact that has long term, right? You interviewed 20 candidates, you give them the whole run around, make them dance, and just to tell them, hey, we're offering you a job at 50K less. That leaves a negative impact in my mind, at least for all the companies I ever interviewed for. I always am like, damn, they suck. Like their culture, it's an impact that I'll always have and I'll always remember. So not wanting to do business with them just comes like it's a bias, I guess I have.
Yeah. Um, I think it's like pay is always negotiable too. Like,
Yep.
um, all a hiring manager has to do is just go back to CEO, CFO, and say, hey, look, I've been interviewing for this role for 60 days. You know, what I'm finding is candidates are just not interested in the pay range that we had originally assessed for. I think we were off the mark and we need to raise it by X%. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you can use research from PayScale or whatever. Um, but I really like what communities that are specific to like, different industries do really well. So shout out to like Superpath for like being very transparent by producing a salary compensation report annually. I think those are really powerful for companies to be able to leverage. So I would say it's definitely on the company and the hiring manager to have their finger on the pulse and be able to access those to the best of their ability.
I agree. I just can't wrap my head around it because someone who now has like I have someone helping with editing and helping with that. Like if I wouldn't have drawn out what they were doing, I would have just been wasting money hiring the wrong person. So I think for all of us, all the founders and leaders out there, do your research. Travis has stated multiple, areas where you could actually do that research and then don't rub people the wrong way. I mean, we're both here talking about how we've been rubbed the wrong way and how it has left a negative impression.
Mm-hmm.
Your brand has, yeah, go ahead.
The last thing I'll say about this too is the part that falls on the individual or like the employee who's looking for their next role is like you need to be communicating and transparent with people you trust. Just like you said, you had somebody who came up to you and was like, oh, you should be making a lot more than you are. It's on you to kind of like navigate some of those conversations, and it can be uncomfortable, right? Like I've been in plenty of situations, both on the contracting side, where I'm just a freelancer for somebody, and on a full-time W-2 role where I'm like, I'm not worth it. And I think especially unfortunately for women or people of color, this really starts to play into the game. And I'm over here as like a white cisgendered man saying like, hey, like it is freaking hard
Yeah.
to stand up for yourself and ask for what you think you're worth and what you deserve. And get support from your friends and people within your industry, and ask around. And um, one good way to do that is when you leave a job, just be like, hey boss, can I ask you like how much you were making? And how much I was making, but I'm trying to step into a new role. Like that's always a good one. But yeah, being transparent with your peers and standing firm, right? Like a really good book for this, for folks who are looking for a good resource, is Alex Hermosi has a book on I think it's like the $50 million deal or something like that. I'll pull it up in a second, but I wasn't really into Alex Hermosi. He just looked like a big gym bro who was like roided out in these like YouTube videos. But then a good friend of mine who I really trust and admire was like, dude, just get past all that. And he's got some really good takeaways. And it's like, it's not worth your time if somebody's lowballing you, because they're going to end up being a shitty client. And I was
Yeah.
like, I've really internalized that, of like, don't feel bad when you like an opportunity gets turned away from you because you're like, hey, I asked for $3,500 for this project that I knew it was going to take me 40 hours to work on. And they came back to me with like, we'll give you 1,500. And you're like, okay, I'm desperate. I guess I'll take it. And look, if you're
Yeah.
desperate and you got to take it, you got to take it. Like beggars
That's
can't be
true.
choosers. But
Um,
I really did like from that book, Alex Hormozzi's book. Again, I think it was the $50 million deal. Um, and he's just like, there's so much importance that can happen when you start to like sell your true worth. So that's on you as an individual employer to make sure like don't settle for those crappy low ball offers. Know your worth, show your worth as a candidate with really good references, with a strong resume, with good networking skills, but most importantly, especially in the field of marketing and sales, um, you can show a really, really great portfolio. If you're in sales, you can show, look at these cadences I've written, look at these deals I've closed, look at how I handle situations that are really challenging. If you're a marketer, portfolio is super easy to build. You just got to put it together and let your work speak for itself.
Yeah. No, that's a really great way to segment into our last sour take. Travis, it's been amazing. One more to go. We got through that. We're going to wrap it up with toxic waste nuclear fusion.
Let's do it.
Thanks again for being on the show. It's been such a pleasure. Here we go. Sour take number 5.
The book is $100 million Offers by Alex Hormozzi.
What is it? 100
The
million?
book 100 mil offers, how to make offers so good, by Alex Hormozzi. Go check it out. I think a lot of people will like it.
Let's go.
All right, yeah, last take. Let me open this up. You're probably gonna watch me cry. All right, let's do it.
VC money can be a gift or a curse. Now, I didn't add the rest of what you wrote. Now, if you want to add that, sure, but I'll let you kind of elaborate on why it can be a gift or a curse.
Okay, so this might be like a slow build up that's happening here. So I'm gonna try to get all my talking points out quickly. Silicon Valley startups are especially guilty of this. I now work for a Canadian-based company, and the mentality and the culture is different. I think VC money can be a curse if you're a business that gets overly beholden to short-term thinking to become profitable. That grow at all costs that we talked about, that's dangerous thinking.
Yep.
You're messing with people's livelihood when you hire them, and then you don't have a solidified plan in place for steady, consistent long-term growth. And instead you're just like hyped up by money that you're going to like scale your sales team by 100 people and then have absolutely no business doing that.
Yeah.
there's a reason that people on TikTok are making fun of companies when they are posting about, you know, if this does it's like very tongue in cheek, but it's like, I'm only doing this because it increases shareholder value. And it's like, if I'm not a shareholder, like, why should I give a crap?
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone can answer that. So yeah, I think VC money can be both a gift and a curse. I think it'd be a gift in the sense that, in my case right now, where we can take something that has been proven to work and scale it, which is Motion's content marketing efforts. And it has great product market fit. It shows very early signs of easy adoption. Um, and it's not like an uphill, nice to have kind of tool.
Yeah.
It is a necessity born out of a founder who did a shit ton of research and spent a lot of time figuring out where there was a gap in the tool set for performance marketers. And so he was very cautious to take VC money. He did end up taking it. Um, but so far it's proven to be very successful in the first 8 months of scaling the company cautiously and smart.
That's an incredible insight right there, because for me, I've been at two companies now that were bootstrapped and didn't have any VC money. And the culture at a bootstrapped company, I think, is it can be very similar, especially like taking that culture and when you get VC money, keeping it where you're holding your dollars tight, whatever you're spending, you're making sure you're really seeing and justifying ROI. Um, but I've always wondered what it's felt like to be at a company that is VC backed. And to get that level of insight, I think really helps me. For those who are at a VC company right now, or maybe they're experiencing some of those woes, how do you fix that? How do you go to your founder and say, hey, we can't do it at growth at all costs? Or is it a walk away situation?
I think it's a walk away situation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's something founders got to figure out on their own the hard
Yeah.
way, from what I've seen. And um, yeah, I think it is also a product of like macroeconomic conditions that are outside of people's control, wars
Yep.
that get started in parts of the world that nobody foresaw coming.
Yep.
Um, you know, freaking COVID. Like there's just stuff that you can't predict, and I understand and I empathize with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not out here just like, let me go on my, high horse and bash founders. Because like, yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like a founder should also be in it to have fun. Like, why'd you start this company? Just to have power and money? Did you do it because it was interesting and fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what happened to that part of it? And that's what I would challenge founders to kind of tap into, and think about. And I don't know if they'll ever hear this or hear me, but hopefully they will and be like, yeah, there's a balancing act here for VC companies. Yeah, you can feel and sense the pressure that an executive staff feels
Yeah.
when they're not hitting goals, and it's scary. And
Yeah.
you're like, "Mm," and you're trying to justify it, you're trying to understand it. Um,
Do you find that
and
there's
yeah,
times that's wasted having to justify that, or is it a good justification there?
I think from what I've seen, like there are certain like parts of the revenue stream that will kind of like dip and peak, um, when certain things are happening
Yeah.
within an organization. Like, so for example, if you are scaling up net new business, you might see a dip in what you would like your churn rate to be because
Yep.
you've been spending a lot of time getting new customers. It's just a numbers game, right? Like a certain percentage. So like that's something that I've seen and you're like, okay, well that makes sense. That our churn rate is higher than we'd like it to be.
Mm.
Because we've been really doubling down on getting new customers through the
Yeah.
door. And
Yeah.
we've maybe been finding some folks who aren't a perfect fit. And that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So that when you're spent the time to like justify that and understand, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Like maybe let's hire a couple new CS people. Let's come up with a really good program for training new customers and trying to come up with maybe some like partner with the content team to make sure that what we're sending them email wise, let's work with the product team to make sure adoption issues are addressed. There's things you can do in that situation from all departments to kind of address it. But yeah, there's not much you can do, I think, when you hire 50 salespeople in like a 4-month period and then like nobody's buying your shit.
The
But
good old
you just
Peloton movement.
yeah.
I love to end it on a laugh there, and I think for everyone watching, I would love for you to end this conversation. If they were to take one thing away, what would be that main takeaway?
Go take an improv class.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it, man. It's
love it.
such an unlock for everyone that has to speak on a Zoom call, that has to address a team meeting, who has to deal with things that they can't foresee, who wants to be more authentic in the way they behave, in the way that they think, and then the way that they communicate to others. It's the biggest unlock that so many people in tech and in business just are not tapping into.
I have no excuse. I live in Chicago, so it's like, improv capital. I gotta get out there, and I have been wanting to. So maybe this is the push I need to, to make the move.
Make the move, sign up. You can do some drop-in classes. You can hit up your man Chris Bogue, who shout out Chris Bogue. He's like the
He's a stud.
B2B improv man himself over in Chicago. So yeah, anyone who's listening to this, like Google improv classes near me, do a drop-in. If you hate it, okay, never do it again. But I have a feeling you're gonna be like, that was pretty, like you're gonna walk away and be like, oh, I've got my pit stains. I felt so nervous. Like, but then at the end you're gonna be like, you know what? I feel a little better now. Like that was
Yeah.
silly as heck. Like, what a good time.
We aren't silly enough in our careers and even in our real life. We, all these commercials, the way we were growing, it's like, gotta wear a suit, you gotta do this. And like, I think COVID really changed that for a lot of people. And like,
Mhm.
I'm in a sweater and a jacket, right? Like, I
We're
mean,
eating sour candies, baby.
right? Like that's the key. Like, be yourself, be authentic. Travis, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was so much fun. We got to dive into so many cool topics. For everybody who is watching, make sure to give Travis a follow on LinkedIn. You're also on YouTube. So everybody,
Yeah, man.
go follow Travis. Again, Travis, thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for listening to the Sour Go-to-Market SaaS Takes podcast, sponsored by Sales Intel, TAC, The Juice, Rev Genius, and Hockey Stack. More bite-sized content is available on our LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.